What if love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect appearances? What if it was about something deeper, something pure? Meet Richard, a man who has everything yet finds himself searching for the one thing he cannot buy: true love. But where will this journey lead? Will the woman who holds his heart prove worthy, or will love reveal itself in the most unexpected way? In this African tale, Richard's quest for true love takes an unexpected turn, proving that not all that glitters is gold. Before we dive into this thrilling journey, hit that subscribe button for more unforgettable African stories that inspire, surprise, and captivate. The city was alive, its streets bustling with the rhythm of daily life. Cars honked, vendors shouted, and laughter echoed in the air. In this vibrant African metropolis, amid the chaos and charm, Richard strolled unnoticed. To everyone, he was just another face in the crowd, an ordinary salesman, blending seamlessly into the background. But Richard was far from ordinary. At 37, Richard was a trillionaire, a man with unimaginable wealth, the kind that could buy islands, influence empires, and turn dreams into reality. But what he couldn't buy was the one thing he yearned for most: genuine love. His history was riddled with heartbreaks. Women adored his wealth, not him. They chased his lifestyle, not his heart. So he made a decision to strip away his riches, his status, and his name to see if love would find him in his simplicity. Disguised in a modest shirt and trousers, Richard walked to a cafe he frequented during his undercover days. That's where he first saw her, Rachel. She was a vision of beauty, with long legs, a killer figure, and warm brown eyes that could mesmerize anyone. She looked like she'd stepped off a runway. Her melanin skin glowed under the sunlight, a testament to her undeniable allure. She carried herself with an air of confidence that turned heads wherever she went. Rachel wasn't alone. Beside her stood Melanie, her friend, who was helping her carry shopping bags filled with high-end purchases. Melanie wasn't as striking as Rachel, but there was something about her. Her round face radiated warmth, her smile lit up her features, and her aura exuded kindness. She wasn't flashy, but she was quietly beautiful. Richard observed the two women. Rachel's laugh was sharp, her gestures bold and deliberate. Melanie, on the other hand, had an unassuming charm, offering soft smiles and gentle words to the people they passed. The contrast between them was stark. As Richard sat down at a nearby table, he asked himself the question that had haunted him for years: could love truly exist without wealth and status? The answer would come soon enough. For now, the question lingered in the air. Who would win the heart of a man who has everything, but just wants to be loved for who he truly is? And if you're curious to see how Richard's journey unfolds, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Richard adjusted his tie, his hands trembling slightly as he approached Rachel and Melanie on the bustling street. He'd rehearsed this moment countless times in his mind. As he reached them, he cleared his throat and introduced himself with a smile. Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Richard. I was wondering if I could have a moment of your time. Rachel turned to him, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. Her expression immediately hardened and she scoffed. A moment of my time? Please. You look like you can't afford even a second of it, she said, flipping her long braids over her shoulder. Richard's face fell, but he wasn't one to give up easily. I understand appearances can be deceiving, but I'd really like to get to know you. Rachel rolled her eyes. Deceiving? Honey, your looks tell me everything I need to know. You're a lousy pauper wasting my time. Go find someone in your tax bracket. And with that, she turned on her heels, walking away with the confidence of someone who owned the world. When Richard tried to approach her one more time, she turned back and gave him a tight slap across his face. Dirty tout, she spat. When he opened his mouth to speak again, she slapped him harder before walking away, disgusted by his existence. Richard stood there, frozen and humiliated. But then Melanie, who had been quiet the entire time, stayed back. Her expression was one of regret and embarrassment for her friend's behavior. She looked at Richard and said softly, "I'm so sorry about her. Rachel can be, blunt. Please don't take it to heart." Richard smiled faintly. "Thank you. It's kind of you to say that. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm still trying. But if it's not too much to ask, could you help me talk to her? Convince her to give me a chance." Melanie hesitated, biting her lip. She could see the sincerity in his eyes. "I don't think it's a good idea, but..." "Okay, I'll try. But don't get your hopes up." She handed him her number, and they parted ways. The next day, Richard stood outside a restaurant where Rachel was having lunch. He'd spent hours convincing himself to confront her again, determined to make her see beyond his humble disguise. As he walked in, Rachel spotted him immediately and groaned loudly, drawing attention from the other diners. "Oh no, not you again," she said, crossing her arms. "What are you doing here, stalking me now?" Richard, holding back his embarrassment, said, "Rachel, please, I'm not here to bother you. I just want to tell you how I feel." Rachel laughed bitterly. "How you feel? You feel like being broke? Is that it? Because that's all I see when I look at you." She picked up her drink and poured it over his head. "Maybe this will cool you off." The entire restaurant fell silent as Richard stood there, drenched and humiliated. Rachel added, "And in case you didn't hear me the first time, I don't date broke nobodies. Now leave." Melanie, who had been sitting nearby, rushed to Richard's side. "That was uncalled for, Rachel," she exclaimed. She turned to Richard, helping him clean up. "I'm so sorry about this. You didn't deserve that." Richard gave her a weak smile. "Thank you, Melanie. You've been kinder to me than I could have ever expected." Over the next few weeks, Richard and Melanie began to spend more time together. It started with casual conversations over the phone and quickly turned into long walks and shared meals. Melanie's warmth and honesty captivated Richard. She was unlike anyone he'd ever met, genuine, caring, and selfless. Melanie would often encourage him to forget about Rachel, but Richard remained determined. "I just need to know I gave it my all," he'd tell her, and each time, Melanie would reluctantly agree to help him. Meanwhile, Rachel continued to mock their growing friendship. Whenever she saw them together, she'd make snide comments. "Oh, look at the lovebirds," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "Enjoy your broke romance. It's all you'll ever have." But Richard no longer cared about Rachel's words. His heart was slowly being drawn to Melanie, her kindness breaking through the walls he'd built around himself. As they shared their stories and dreams, he realized that love wasn't about appearances or status. It was about connection. And with Melanie, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace, true love. Are you rooting for Richard and Melanie, or do you think Rachel will have a change of heart? Let us know in the comments. And if you love stories that keep you guessing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The sun was setting over the bustling city as Richard stood in a small, beautifully lit garden. The atmosphere was serene, with soft music playing in the background. Melanie walked in, looking radiant, yet puzzled by Richard's mysterious invitation. She glanced around and smiled nervously. "Richard, what's all this about?" Richard, dressed in his usual humble attire, stepped forward, his heart pounding. He took her hand gently. "Melanie, I've thought long and hard about this moment. You've shown me something I thought I'd never find. Love, pure and genuine. I'm not the best with words, but I know my heart is full when I'm with you." Melanie's eyes widened, her cheeks flushing as he dropped to one knee, pulling out a small, elegant ring box. "Melanie, will you marry me?" For a moment, Melanie stood frozen. Her hands trembled as she looked down at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Richard, I don't know what to say. This is so sudden." Richard looked up at her with a smile. "I know it's sudden, but there's something you need to know before you decide. I haven't been completely honest with you, Melanie." Melanie's brow furrowed. What do you mean?" He stood, taking both her hands in his. "Melanie, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not just a salesman. I'm the CEO of the tech company I said I worked for. In fact, I'm one of the wealthiest men in the world." Melanie gasped, stepping back slightly. "What? You're joking, right? This has to be a joke." Richard shook his head. "I'm not joking. I disguised myself because I've been hurt so many times before. Every woman I've ever loved only wanted me for my money. I needed to know if someone could love me for who I really am. And you did, Melanie. You loved me without knowing any of this." Tears welled up in Melanie's eyes as she processed his words. "You lied to me," she said softly, her voice trembling. "All this time?" I know," Richard said quickly, "and I'm so sorry. But please understand, I needed to be sure. I needed to protect myself. You've proven to me that true love exists, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving how much I love you. Please, forgive me." Melanie's heart ached, but as she looked into Richard's eyes, she saw the sincerity of his words. Slowly, she nodded. I forgive you, Richard. I do love you, and I believe you love me too, but you have to promise me, no more secrets." Relief washed over Richard as he pulled her into a tight embrace. "No more secrets, I promise." Just then Rachel appeared, her heels clicking on the cobblestone path. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock as she overheard the conversation. "Wait a minute, you're a trillionaire?" Richard turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Yes, Rachel. That's the truth." Rachel's lips quivered as tears began streaming down her face. "Richard, I didn't know. If I had known, things would have been different. I didn't mean what I said before. I was wrong. Please, give me another chance. I'm sorry for how I treated you." Richard's gaze was calm but firm. "Rachel, your words tell me everything I need to know. You didn't care about me until you found out I was wealthy. It's too late. You've shown me who you truly are." Rachel fell to her knees, sobbing. "It should have been me. It should have been me," she wailed, clutching the hem of her dress. Richard took Melanie's hand, his focus solely on her. "I've found my happiness, Rachel, and it's not with you." As he slid the ring onto Melanie's finger, the crowd that had gathered erupted in cheers. Rachel, still kneeling, watched in despair as Richard kissed Melanie's hand and embraced her. Did you expect that twist? If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible tales that keep you hooked. The sun shone brightly over the sprawling venue, a breathtaking estate adorned with vibrant African textiles, golden ornaments, and lush greenery. It was the day the city had been buzzing about for weeks, the wedding of Richard and Melanie. Guests arrived in waves, stepping out of luxury cars in their finest traditional attire. Drummers and dancers welcomed them with rhythms that seemed to echo the joy in the air. Melanie stood in her dressing room, her hands trembling, as the makeup artist put the finishing touches on her radiant face. She wore a magnificent gown that merged African heritage with modern elegance, a flowing white dress with intricate beading, and a gele that sparkled like the morning dew. Her mother stood nearby, holding her hand tightly. "My daughter, you've made us so proud," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Meanwhile, Richard stood at the altar, wearing a tailored madvada of pure gold and white, his cap tilted slightly, a symbol of confidence and power. His face held a calm, contented smile, but his eyes betrayed the overwhelming love he felt for the woman who was about to walk down the aisle. As the drums softened, signaling Melanie's arrival, all eyes turned to the entrance. The double doors opened, and there she was, an ethereal vision. Gasps filled the air as she began her slow, graceful walk down the aisle, her father at her side. Richard's breath caught in his throat as he watched her approach, the world around him fading away. To him, she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, not just because of her outward beauty, but because of the pure heart that had won his. In the crowd, Rachel stood near the front row, dressed as a bridesmaid in a dazzling but intentionally subdued outfit. Her smile was tight, her eyes brimming with tears she refused to let fall. Every step Melanie took felt like a dagger to Rachel's heart. She muttered under her breath, "It should have been me. I should be the one walking down that aisle." She clutched the bouquet tightly, her knuckles white. This ceremony was a spectacle of African opulence, rich with cultural elements. A traditional oriki was recited, praising the bride and groom's virtues, while elders blessed the union with heartfelt prayers. Guests watched in awe as dancers performed a vibrant routine, embodying the joy and hope that surrounded the couple. When it was time for the vows, Richard turned to Melanie, his voice steady but emotional. "Melanie, you taught me the meaning of true love. When I had nothing, you gave me everything. Your kindness, your patience, your heart. I vow to cherish you, protect you, and love you with all that I am for the rest of our lives." Melanie's voice trembled as she responded, her eyes glistening. "Richard, I didn't know who you were, but I knew your soul. You are my partner, my love, my everything. I vow to stand by you in every moment through every challenge and celebrate every joy." As they exchanged rings, cheers erupted, and the officiant declared them husband and wife. Richard leaned in to kiss Melanie, and the crowd roared with approval, clapping and ululating in celebration. The reception that followed was nothing short of magical. A grand feast was laid out, featuring traditional African dishes alongside global cuisine. Guests danced under twinkling lights as live music filled the air. Richard and Melanie shared their first dance, their movements perfectly in sync as though they were the only two people in the room. Rachel sat at a table in the corner, nursing a glass of champagne. She watched them, her eyes fixed on Richard's hand resting on Melanie's waist, the way they laughed and whispered to each other. Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered to herself, "It should have been me." But the night belonged to Richard and Melanie, their love shining brighter than the glittering chandeliers. As the celebration continued, they moved through the crowd, thanking guests and receiving blessings from elders. Every moment was a testament to their journey, a love story that proved that true beauty lies in the heart. Love like this is truly one of a kind. What did you think of Richard and Melanie's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales that celebrate the beauty of life and love. The wedding of Richard and Melanie wasn't just a union of two hearts. It was a vibrant celebration of African heritage and tradition. From the attire to the ceremonies, every element carried deep cultural significance, a testament to the richness of their roots. Melanie's gown, though modern, featured hand-stitched patterns inspired by her family's heritage, while her gelish shimmered with intricate beadwork. Richard's agbada, a majestic blend of gold and white, symbolized wealth, purity, and prosperity. His cap, tilted slightly to the right, was a mark of his dignity and status. The bridal party, dressed in harmonious colors, showcased the unity and love that surrounded the couple. This ceremony began with a traditional oriki, a poetic chant in praise of the couple. Elders took turns blessing them, pouring libations on the ground to honor ancestors and invite their guidance into the new union. The words spoken were profound, echoing the wisdom of generations. "A kind heart is worth more than gold," said one elder, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "For when wealth fades, kindness remains, and it is kindness that builds a home." The feast that followed was a tapestry of flavors and aromas. Traditional dishes such as jollof rice, suya, pounded yam, and egusi soup adorned the tables, alongside globally inspired delicacies. Each dish told a story, a connection to the couple's lineage and the community that raised them. Music was another highlight, with drummers leading the rhythm of the day. The dun-dun drum, also known as the talking drum, seemed to narrate the couple's journey, its beats rising and falling with the emotions of the moment. Dancers in colorful traditional attire performed steps passed down through generations, their movements embodying joy, unity, and celebration. Proverbs, woven seamlessly into toasts and speeches, reflected the essence of the day. A family elder remarked, "A woman who holds a man's heart holds the world in her palm," as she raised a glass to Melanie. Another chimed in, "A house built on kindness will stand the test of time," reminding everyone of the foundation upon which this union was built. Every detail of the celebration paid homage to the culture that shaped Richard and Melanie, creating a memory not just for the couple, but for everyone who witnessed the day. It was a living tapestry of love and tradition, proving that the past and present could unite to create something timeless. What's your favorite part of African wedding traditions? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the richness of our culture. Melanie's journey was one of quiet strength and an unwavering heart. She started as a simple friend, her warmth and kindness drawing Richard in when the world seemed to reject him. She had no idea that her selflessness, her gentle encouragement, and her belief in his worth beyond material wealth would lead to something so profound. As Richard spent time with her, he saw her heart, her laughter that lit up the room, her simple joys, and her ability to make others feel seen and valued. She wasn't trying to impress, she was simply herself. Slowly, Richard realized that Melanie wasn't just a friend. She was his anchor, the one who saw him for who he truly was. The connection they built was pure, untainted by greed or pretense, and it became the foundation of a love that would change his life forever. Meanwhile, Rachel sat alone in her regret. She replayed every harsh word, every dismissive gesture, every insult she hurled at Richard in her mind. The realization that she had turned away someone who genuinely cared for her, not for her looks or charm, but for the possibility of something real, crushed her. Her regret wasn't just about the wealth she'd missed out on. It was about the realization that her materialistic priorities had cost her a chance at genuine love. Rachel watched Melanie and Richard from afar, seeing in their relationship what she had always longed for: trust, respect, and affection that wasn't tied to superficial value. The laughter they shared, the way Richard looked at Melanie with admiration, the way Melanie supported him wholeheartedly, it was a painful reminder of what could have been. But while Rachel's heart ached, Melanie's soared. She reflected on her journey from being the girl in the background to standing beside the man who chose her not for what she looked like, but for who she was. The love she and Richard shared was proof that sincerity could triumph over appearances, that what truly mattered in a person was their heart. Have you ever experienced the power of a genuine connection? Share your story in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. What do you think about this tale of love, heartbreak, and regret? Did Richard make the right choice? Could Rachel have turned things around if she acted differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think about this journey of finding true love and the lessons it teaches us. This story reminds us that appearances can deceive, but a kind heart always shines through. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button to support our channel and share it with someone who needs to hear this powerful message. And don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable African tales that challenge the way we see the world, touch our hearts, and remind us of what truly matters. Until next time, stay inspired.